Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the August briefing session. I declare this meeting open at 6:02. Kaya Maman, Kaya Yoga, Kaya Bridie, Yananuk, Nalak Kadij Winjialak Nini, Nalak Kadij Nidja, Buja Bal, Wajak Nunga, Buja Nalak Nini, Kura, Nijie Burawan. The town of Bassendean acknowledges the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation as the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to elders past and present and acknowledge their continuing culture and the contribution they make to the region. Councillors, I will just ask if all have signed the Declaration of Civic Duty and Responsibility. Thank you. For the public, I'll just read out what that declaration is. I make this declaration in good faith and declare that I will duly, faithfully, honestly, and with integrity fulfil the duties of my office for all the people of the town of Bassendean according to the best of my judgment and ability. There are no announcements by the presiding person tonight without discussion. Attendances, apologies. We have an apology from Councillor Emily Wilding and an apology from Councillor Talon Ames. I don't believe there are any other apologies, are there, Mr. CEO?
None, Madam Mayor.
Okay. I'd also like to advise that our meetings are recorded, audio recorded and live streamed. And this entails these recordings are then put on our website the following day. Okay? We have, councillors, do we have any declarations of interest on any item on the agenda? No? Okay. We come to deputations. Now, I know that we have one deputation this evening that will be in the public gallery. And sir, if you would like to come up to the microphone, state your name and address, and the item number that you are referring to, I believe, is 12.4. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you, sir. And if I'd ask you to speak into the microphone. So if you'd state your name and address first.
Kevin Nee, 43 Geraldine Street, Bassendean.
Timer. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. If you would like to address the council.
Okay. Thank you for taking the time this evening to hear my deposition. I'm writing this to raise my concerns with a pending application involving a mature tree in the backyard of 43 Geraldine Street, Bassendean, that I, Kevin Nee, and my wife, Chamali, own. I understand application considerations are made in due course by council, but given the anxiety this is causing in my household, I feel compelled to come here this evening and speak in person. My wife and I recently purchased this property consisting of a 100 metre squared single home house built in the 20s, I think, asbestos cladding with an outhouse toilet. It's far from our dream home, but it was affordable and provided the first step into the suburb and community we are so proud to be moving into. I operate my business here in the area, which is called my subdivision. Our children also go to school in the area, and we generally love Bassendean. We knew we would need to develop the site to have a dwelling reflective of the value of the property and create a family home. We decided we should subdivide the property to make use of the land size, build a modest home on the rear lot. We are currently planning on upgrading the old existing house to sell as part of the current subdivision. If all this happened in a 12-month window, with a lot of hard work and mortgage juggling, the numbers would just about add up. Our plans have been completely derailed in the application process when we were made aware of the local planning policy number 13 for the tree retention and provision with respect to the tree in our backyard. We understand completely the motivation of the council for the preservation of trees. It is one of the aspects we love about Bassendean. However, regardless of whether the site is developed, the tree poses a risk for a host of reasons and needs to be addressed. So I have provided a letter as part of the package that we've given. And on the second page of that, it goes into the information from the arborist reports. The big concern that we have at the moment is we've had an arborist report done which cost us $2,000, which is fine. We expect to do those things. But then the council didn't accept that, which is fine as well. They then got in their own arborists, 2 level 5 arborists, the highest in the state, 2 reputed companies, and the council's arborists ended up getting a different view on the report, which agreed in parts but disagreed in other parts. Our arborist was of the view that the tree should come down, that it poses a risk, and the council's arborist was of the opposite view. So, you know, there's a big concern for us there where we've got 2 clashing views from 2 very high-level professionals. So that's something that we really want, the board to look at and take into consideration and advise on what the best course, forward would be for that. So a lot of that is covered in the 2 arborist reports which have been provided. My letter breaks it down on the second page as well, a quick summary of it. Just a bit of a background on me. I'm a surveyor and an engineer, and I own a company that specialises in subdivision. And what I do is due diligence, and we do a very good job of it. Every day we're researching properties, we're looking into what can and can't be done there, and most importantly, I'm dealing with councils every day. So I understand where the council is coming from with this policy, and I definitely understand how sensitive this issue is about potentially setting a precedent for other people to come. Regardless of what it is and what we're doing within that industry, you don't want to be setting, up a scenario where everyone else is going to come afterwards like a tidal wave and use that one example so that they can then take the trees down. So I understand that this is the first and it's probably a sensitive topic based on that. But at the same time, we spent a year looking for a property in Bassendean, me and my wife. And it was my job to do the due diligence on finding the properties, looking at properties, visiting them every Saturday and Sunday for a year. And when we found this property, I was able to look at it using my skills and see, yes, this has got potential. And the last step in my due diligence was obviously to call council, because that's what we do all the time. And my main concern when I called council at that time, which was like last March or something, sorry, it would have been February, we took ownership of the property in March. I rang council and I said, I'm concerned about drainage across the road. Is there anything there planned in the future? There's a sewer coming through my property, which you'll see is the orange line on the plan. There's an orange line running down the side of the property. That's the minister sewer. It's coming through our property. And it's not just running 1 metre off the boundary parallel. It's skewing on an angle across the lot, which is fairly significant. You can't do two. You could do 2 side-by-side blocks, but there's a lot of constraints around what you could do. So side-by-side is almost kind of out of the question based on, Water Corp and building requirements. And our option then was a rear battle axe. Now I've just sketched it on there. There's a circle kind of in the back with lines coming off it, and it's crudely drawn, but that's pretty much summarises our situation. We have one of the biggest gum trees in Bassendean in our backyard. We have a minister sewer running down the southern side. We have a root system that is coming all the way up to the dividing boundary of the rear lot. And we have neighbouring gum trees on the south side where their root systems are coming in at surface level into our block. So we are like completely compromised. We bought a piece of land where we weren't told by the real estate agents that basically that there was tree policies in place. My due diligence at council regarding the drainage, they never told me about that. There was nothing in place to advise me. There's a mapping system. Have you checked that whether there's a tree, one of these major trees in your property? There was no information available to people new to that area at the time. to find out about this what I would consider like a hidden policy. Sure, all the locals know about it. I'm not on Facebook, so we're new to the area. We're looking through the area, and even with my expertise doing this every day, this completely was something I missed, and that's partly my responsibility. I accept that, but when you call council to do due diligence, there are systems in place with mapping systems, GIS, to allow you to do checks, intramaps, measure areas, see all these different things. There's nothing currently within the Bassendean, system that allows people to know this. It's just essentially word of mouth, and that has now really put us in a compromised position. We're now at a stage, me and my family, where if we don't get this rear lot subdivision approved, we will need to sell the land probably, and that's going to derail plans that we've had in place 10 years maybe. Has been leading to this moment. And again, while I understand that you guys have to make sure you don't set a precedent for the future, I do genuinely think that you need a more robust system in place. And I've heard that you are working on advising people on what, on getting the word out on this. But the fact of the matter is the word's not getting out. I feel there are things that could potentially be done, for a mapping system, of some type, or a PDF plan where trees are generally marked, where it can be provided to people who do due diligence about where these trees might be, etc. But yeah, that's our situation currently. We could be heading towards a bit of a financial disaster, which we don't want, and it's based on lack of information, basically, and our land being compromised on all sides by gum trees and existing services.
Thank you very much. Councillors, I'll open this to questions now. Councillor Plivka.
Yeah, look, thank you for outlining your concerns as to whether sufficient notice was given of the policy, and perhaps there are some things there. Obviously, we want everybody to know about it and to embrace the policy. Leaving that issue to one side, if that policy is applicable, in terms of resolving this and being able to build on this lot, I've seen the photographs. Is this the location of the tree on the survey? Is that accurate?
So the scale of the tree, the position of the tree is accurate. The scale of that obviously is not, but the root systems of that tree go all the way up to that boundary, and it's in the major root zone. So where you see those orange lines is it essentially can't be cut back, and the outcome of the arborist report in both cases have been definitive that the rear lot can never be developed using a brick slab scenario. It would just be impossible.
And I suppose the other question is, in terms of the configuration, I see you've elected to have the front lot area as 505 square metres.
Yeah.
I think the minimum, your surveyor is what, 350?
350, yeah.
So, I mean, is there scope for adjusting the proportions between the two?
You could adjust it, but it would just impact the adjustment just wouldn't. Like if we go through with the subdivision application, we've got to sell that land with a disclaimer essentially saying that it's got a major tree that needs to be kept. And my concern, and I'm going to be really brutally honest here, is that we have to try and hope that people who are buying that land don't know about this, so that we can sell that problem to somebody else. And I just can't sleep with having that on my conscience, that's how it's got to be, that I've got to sell the land hoping that the people buying it don't figure out that they're compromised when they buy it. And that's something that I'm not happy about.
Yeah, look, I mean, we certainly wouldn't suggest that is the optimal outcome.
But that is the realistic scenario, yeah.
In terms of, though, what is proposed, I understand that you have not received a determination from administration.
No, it's been paused.
So this is preemptive?
This is midway through the subdivision process. It's on pause at the moment, pending the outcome of this, yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, that's all I needed to know.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. If you don't mind, councillors, I've got a couple of questions. So you're looking to subdivide to sell the vacant block correct?
Build at the back.
So you want to build at the back.
Yeah.
Are you then planning to sell the front of the property?
We've put work into it now as a rental return. If we were able to get to a point in the subdivision where we were able to lock in a builder, and because the goal is to build on the back block, finish our kids are here in Bassendean, finish the schooling with our kids and then send them to the city. So the goal was to build in that back block. My wife, she wants the back block for security, and so that was our goal, to build there. We had a house designed, which has also been submitted as part of the package. Yeah.
Okay. The reason I ask about whether you're on selling the block or not, because there are different building techniques, which I'm sure you're aware of, that would be less disrupted by tree roots and things like that. Also, have you lived in any other state in Australia?
No.
Okay. Because just out of interest, tree preservation in the other states is quite
big, yeah.
prevalent on private property. In WA, there's been a move for local governments to put in policies, which is the WALGA. Did you realise it was the WALGA policy that this council has adopted? And it's been adopted by multiple other councils in the metro area. Were you aware of that? No.
I'm aware of some other councils adopting the policy. I'm also aware of one council bringing it in and then it being removed due to the problems that it caused. Yeah.
That's the only one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, further questions? Councillor John?
One of the things in the report shows that town staff believe the cottage currently doesn't meet modern living standards and will likely be removed in the medium to long term, making the applicant's contentions somewhat redundant. I was just requesting that you make comment on that.
Yeah. So basically, this is our first investment property, and we're still at the very beginning. We only picked it up in April. So all our finances and planning is all kind of rotating around this plan, and the house at the front is, we don't know what we'll do with it long term, but for now it's a rental investment that is part of this. We have another mortgage at our other property, obviously, so we need to pay 2 mortgages now. And so all this planning is about rental for at least a year, maybe pushing it to 2 years, or depending on how things go with this development, potentially having to sell on that front lot quicker than we would need to. But the feedback that we've had is that the structure is very sound. The building report supports that, and real estate agents have also told us that there is a huge market for people picking up those older cottages and renovating them. And I, again, as a surveyor and someone who does subdivisions day to day, absolutely know that for a fact, because we do surveys for renovations all the time through Bassendean.
So the intention, just so I'm clear, is to build your future family home at the rear of the block, and to rent the house out the front
for now,
to support that.
And maybe in long term down the line in the future, either keep that house and renovate it, or maybe build a different house or sell it. We don't know yet exactly. Yeah, but the thing that I just have to get the point across, the subdivision and the release of the land, one piece of that land is really, really, really critical to us. We've got to get to a point where we can either sell one of the front lot, or through some type of a return, realize that we can potentially keep that, but very likely maybe selling it. I don't know. Our finances are very tight at the moment. It's all kind of hinging around this going ahead.
If this were unsuccessful for you, would it be possible for you to rent that block now and revisit developing it as a future home in the future?
No, unfortunately not. We've looked at all that, obviously, and the return on the rent, the double mortgages, we're starting to already kind of drift into the red, we don't know where that's going to go, and that's obviously causing a lot of anxiety as well. So, yeah.
Councillor Carter?
Thank you. I'm wondering why we have the photograph here, because this is not taken in Bassendean.
No, I was just gonna end with that, and I don't want it to be, like this happened last Friday in Carrinup Primary School. That branch fell off. They have a program out there for basically checking trees like they do through here. I seen your arborist down there, Gabe, or I think it's Gabe. He was down there checking the trees outside St. Michael's a few weeks ago. And they have the same program over in Carrinup, and that branch that you see fell down and crushed a car last Friday in Carrinup. And you can go and that'll be public knowledge, probably at City of Stirling now. But those trees are regularly checked for safety because it's at a primary school. And yet, with all of the reporting from these conflicting arborists with their different views, and structural engineers even, none of them can guarantee that a branch is not going to fall off a tree, no matter what they say. And that picture is proof of that. And that's public knowledge now. You could go and find out about that. And my wife, is extremely scared of trees. Like, the first thing we discussed when we bought that land was, that tree definitely had to go. She's scared of falling branches. So, there's a lot of people out there who are scared of branches falling and killing them. Yeah.
Councillor Plifka?
It was just another question in terms of the orientation. Obviously, we'll see once the report comes back as to what the determination is made in relation to the tree. And as you say, there's conflicting experts which you hold on the same level. The main sewer, so just to get an idea for that, I see the driveway width is 4 metres. The main sewer at its largest is probably within
2 metres roughly at the front.
2 metres?
Yeah.
And so potentially there would be a setback there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you were to, and the other side would be largely unaffected, if you were to go down that path, would along the wall which is along that side, have you looked at, as the Mayor had alluded to, different engineering solutions, in particular things like screw pilings, which you would be permitted to use in the vicinity of that?
Okay, so very good question, obviously. One thing I forgot to mention is that the design of house that we want to build is like a rectangular house. We do not want to build narrow lot design. So the other thing that I haven't mentioned is that if we...
No, you don't have to justify that. I mean,
Okay.
We're not here to tell you...
No, it's not. I just want to give you from the heart. Yeah.
That's right.
If we can't do rear lot, we have to sell the land. We do not want to live in a narrow lot design. We have a design with 101 residential that we have settled on. We want to have a pool. There's just so much has gone into this, into the thoughts here. So a narrow lot design won't work for us. We will have to sell the land because we want to live on a rectangular block that we can build a home on.
And look, I'm not suggesting anyway you have to do that. My understanding is we don't have a policy that requires that. So I'll just want to understand that.
Yeah,
that's perfectly fine. So I'm happy with that.
You're happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Yeah.
Out of interest, you've mentioned the risk of falling branches from trees.
Yeah.
Do you know if that risk is greater than, say, slipping in the shower?
Probably not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, for a council or for anybody to de-risk something to an extent where there is no risk would result in not having any trees.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, I mean, there's a risk no matter what tree you go under. I understand that. Yes.
So part of the policy, I know that you're probably very well aware of the policy now, is that trees above a height of 8 metres and with a canopy of over 6 metres are the only trees where you're required to put in a development application before you can remove those trees. So I'm assuming from what I've seen that you were unaware of that policy at that time and started removal of the tree and then stopped once you became aware. So given the value of trees of that size, do you concede that there is a need to retain trees like that where possible?
100%. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And we like that tree. right? We like that tree, but that tree is huge. It shouldn't be in a garden. It was planted there. It's an invasive species. It was planted there by the lady who lived there, and it's too big for the garden. Like, that's the bottom line. Like, trees that size, on maybe if you have a 2,000 square meter block or bigger, maybe those trees might be suited for there, but like, it's too big for the garden, and the root system is taking up essentially 50% of the block.
You're talking to someone who has one of the biggest Norfolk pines living in the whole entire town.
Yep.
So I do understand what roots, and that root system, I can tell you, goes across 3 or 4 different properties. So
Yeah.
I do understand what the root systems can do.
Yeah.
But I guess my question is, if you have a suburb that is attractive, that attracted you to live here,
Yeah.
do you perceive a need to have some policy that looks to retain those things that make the suburb so attractive?
I definitely agree with that, yeah.
Okay.
But I do think that, you know, and the policy is open to review. I do think that in certain cases, those things obviously need to be reviewed case by case. Yeah.
Okay, councillors, further questions? Okay, we'll leave that one. Thank you very much, sir.
Yep,
Thank
cheers.
you for providing your deputation. Okay. Now, there were no statements that were sent through online, but I will ask if there is anyone in the audience who would like to make a statement. Public statements are limited to 2 minutes per person. No? Okay. So we'll now move on to item 7, which is public question time. Again, each member of the public with a question is entitled to ask up to 2 questions before other members of the public will be invited to ask their questions. There are no questions that have been sent through online. I'll ask if any member of the gallery would like to actually ask a question. No? Okay. And item 8 is petitions. There are none that I know of. Item 9.1 is the minutes, which we will not deal with today because this is a briefing session. We'll now move on to the reports, and the first report deals with 12.2, the Local Heritage Survey update for Nurstead Avenue. And Mr. CEO, can I ask the officer to provide the briefing on this one?
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. Our Manager of Planning and Regulation will make a presentation.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, councillors and members of the gallery. The first item that I'm going to be speaking to this evening is in relation to the Nurstead Avenue Local Heritage Survey update, and I will just give you a quick spiel on that project thus far. Council is being asked for its consent to advertise 4 new place records for Nurstead Avenue for the inclusion in the Local Heritage Survey. The Local Heritage Survey is a requirement under the Heritage Act. It's not the same as a heritage listing, but it does guide development on these places of heritage value. Nurstead Avenue is an area where strong community support has already been shown for recognising the heritage and character for that area. The homes here, built in the early 1900s, are a part of Bassendean's early residential story and contribute to the streetscape that people want to see protected. Our independent heritage consultant has confirmed the records as accurate, and if council supports the advertising, we'll be inviting individual landowners for feedback. The recommendation is worded such that if objections are received, it will come back to council for a decision, and if not, the records will simply be added into the survey. This work also fits into the bigger picture. Nurstead Avenue sits inside the Bassendean Town Centre Precinct Structure Planning Area, which is an area earmarked for higher density development, redevelopment under state zonings. zoning, beg your pardon. Recognising heritage now means we're better placed to balance. We're better prepared to balance growth with character and heritage, and make sure Bassendean's history isn't lost as the town evolves. And just to reconfirm, this isn't the final decision for council. This is purely just to begin the process of consultation with the 4 affected landowners, but it's an important step in protecting the unique character of Nurstead Avenue for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillors, questions on this one? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next item, which is 12.3, Scheme Amendment, number 11, Short-Term Rental Accommodation, and the accompanying local planning policy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The intent of this report is to present both the scheme amendment after advertising has occurred, as well as a local planning policy, which is prior to advertising. We've put them into the same report, effectively, due to the topic areas that it covers. And I'll just give you a quick spiel of the overall process and maybe a bit of an outline in terms of short-term rental accommodation. So, Bassendean, the town of Bassendean has 29 registered short-term rentals, and to date we receive very few complaints about them. They generally operate smoothly and with a low impact within the community. Our position on short-term rental accommodation, or STRAs, love an acronym, has also shifted over time as the market has changed. A few years ago, local governments, it was effectively up to local governments to provide their own controls. However, today the state government sets down a framework, and part of our role is respecting that framework and ensuring that it still aligns with community expectations, as well as that broader and bigger picture. In reviewing the local planning policy, we need to remember that Bassendean isn't an inner-city area where STRAs, short-term rental accommodations, are more likely to generate issues with parties and noise. Here, the demand is clearly different. It's more about affordable stays linked to the airport, or people needing access to health facilities, such as in Midland or in the wider metropolitan region. To reflect these changes, we advertised the scheme amendment, so that was the first part of the report, for 42 days in accordance with the requirements. Only one objection came back, suggesting council shouldn't regulate STRA at all. As registration is a state requirement, we're simply ensuring that we align the local planning with the state planning framework. At the same time, we've also been looking at our local planning policy. We've removed, and council will note, we've removed some elements that are not appropriate for a local planning policy, like locational criteria, and aligned it with state guidance. I'm sure there's some questions around that, but to kind of keep that succinct for this presentation, removing locational criteria. Locational criteria in any local planning policy is inappropriate. We have locational criteria embedded in the scheme via a zoning table, because the zoning table ultimately tells you what uses are located in what zoned land. We've kept strong local controls around occupancy, parking, management plans and code of conducts. But we've rejigged some of the objectives of the policy and had a look at it. I guess the previous policy was more about enforcement, but clearly what we're seeing is that enforcement isn't really the key objective here. It's about balancing where STRAs sit in association with the local planning framework. So the result is we have a scheme amendment which we're suggesting, based off the one objection, that can go through its processes to the Minister for Planning to have embedded in the scheme. And then the second part of that is that the local planning policy is capable for advertising, as it is a balanced approach where clearly the town of Bassendean STRAs are well used, well regulated and low impact, and our planning framework is now clearer and consistent with state law. Thank you.
Okay. Councillors, questions on this item? Councillor Polifica.
So the scheme amendment, we're doing that because there isn't a general or generic provision for local planning schemes, because I understand they try and be as uniform as possible. So we have to do this because this is different.
Yeah, so a few years ago, I think it was 2023, the state government reached out to local governments to effectively request, ask them politely to change their scheme to align with the state government controls, and that is the outcome that we're seeking with this scheme amendment.
And in terms of scheme amendments, would you generally gather up a number of scheme amendments if you were minded to do that, or would you do each one individually? How would that normally progress?
Look, it really depends on timing. Scheme amendments take, I'm sure you can appreciate, a considerable amount of time, not just to prepare from the admin side of the House, but consultation and minimum standards that we have to follow. To answer your question more directly, we would typically deal with them as they present, rather than kind of loading it all up and doing a big batch.
And is there any downside to that? Would the state government require each to be considered sequentially? I mean, would it, if there were one on the horizon, would that be delayed by not bundling them together? Or would
No. It would basically the way that my understanding of the way that it goes to the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage, which is like their administration almost before going to the Commission and the Minister, is that it basically they receive it like an application and then it gets given to an officer. If they received another scheme amendment, so if this went through and then 2 months later we put in another one, it would probably go to another officer and basically just continue on that process.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you. Councillors, further questions? Okay, thank you. We'll move to the next item, which is 12.4, removal of a regulated tree in Geraldine Street, Bassendean. So if you would like to provide your summary.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So council is being asked to consider an application to remove a mature rose gum at 43 Geraldine Street, Bassendean, to allow for a Badalac subdivision and new dwelling. Both arborists and town staff agree that if a Badalac subdivision goes ahead, the tree cannot be retained. That was a component of the applicant's deputation, which the town doesn't dispute. That is basically the most significant part of this application. The real issue is not necessarily the tree's condition, but the subdivision design. A side-by-side subdivision is possible. Town staff believe that is possible and would allow for the development to occur while still retaining the tree. And I will just, because I'm sure there's lots of questions, but a few quick statements that I wanted to make also. Council's policies make clear that retaining significant trees is a priority, especially as we work towards our target of 30% canopy cover by 2040. Refusing this application is consistent with those policies while still leaving room for development to occur. And that is to say that the keeping of the tree does not prejudice two lots being created on the land, so it will still be able to accommodate development. At the end of the day, the town is approaching this from one angle and the applicant the other, but we're kind of coming to different outcomes. We suggest not building underneath the tree, which Badalac subdivision would have to accommodate, rather than simply removing the tree. And that's kind of what it comes down to. Thank you.
Okay. Councillors, questions? Councillor Carter?
Thank you. Can you tell me, the rose gum doesn't usually self-prune regularly, does it? Do you know?
I'm not aware that it does, no. That's right.
Okay, so it's not... I mean, I was very confused by this photograph, but that's not a rose gum and it's not in Bassendean, my understanding.
Yeah, I don't think so. I wasn't provided that that image, sorry.
I have one other question. If you do do a side-by-side subdivision, which can look quite nice, that does mean, though, that the house would have to be demolished.
Through the chair, that is correct. There was some comments made regarding the suitability of the house being retained, and perhaps that's another question from councillors. But effectively that house would need to go if it's a side by side.
Councillor John?
The report has in April 25% of the tree's canopy was removed in preparation, obviously, for the tree to be cut down. When Mr. Nee was made aware of that, he immediately ceased in compliance with the town and has clearly engaged with the town in the process. And from his demeanour, he seems to be doing everything he can to do this correct. My question is, if he had refused to stop, would he have been able to cut the tree down? And what could the town have done about that? And are we punishing someone for doing the correct thing?
For the Chair, I may have to take that question on notice in terms of compliance action for removing trees. As Council's aware, this local planning policy has only been around since October of last year. We've provided some statistics on in previous council meetings. I think it might have been made this year around the number of applications we've received, compliance actions that have gone through, but I can't think off the top of my head of a process that we've really nailed where that situation has fallen out. So I may have to take that question on notice if that's okay.
So follow-on question there. My understanding is that the town received multiple complaints from neighbouring property owners when they saw these works commence. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Right, okay. Okay. Councillor Polivka, did you want to... Yes, okay.
Yeah, just to go back to that, I think you put a proposition that if the land were to be subdivided in the manner that had been proposed, that the tree would necessarily have to be removed?
Sorry, could you repeat
that? In accordance with the diagram that's been provided to us, so that if the land were permitted to be subdivided in that way, that the tree would then necessarily have to be removed? Is that?
Yeah, look, the battle axe configuration and tree protection zones and tree root zones, I'm unfamiliar with the specific wording behind that, effectively preclude having, like a concrete slab and having a building structure around that so close to it, just by the very nature of the root system. So yeah, effectively, and as I said in that roundup, we're approaching it from a position of, we agree that the battle axe subdivision can't really occur if we want to retain that tree. It really has to be a side-by-side configuration.
In terms of the process whereby we would grant a subdivisional approval, do we need to look to that next level as to, if we grant a subdivisional approval in that manner, what are the consequences? That is, would the tree need to be removed? I mean, do we take that next step, and is that part of the consideration of whether we grant the subdivision that's proposed?
Absolutely. So I can speak on behalf of the team. Whenever we receive an application for subdivision, that's one of the things we do check. That has been happening even before the local planning policy was put into place. So yeah, absolutely. And we will reach out to applicants. Just to kind of take a step back as well, the subdivision process, broadly speaking, is an applicant will apply to the state government. We act as a referral authority. When we have 42 days to provide a response to the state government, they will say yay or nay, subject to conditions. It's at that stage, so before even an approval has formally been has gone through, that town staff will reach out to prospective subdividers on that, just to let them know that we've identified there's regulated trees on the site, and they will have to consider that as part of the future development.
But in the circumstance where we say if subdivisional approval in the form sought is granted, the tree would necessarily have to be removed, we are able to take that into consideration as a factor and refuse the subdivision as proposed?
Yes, we could do. With this application, the subdivision application, the West Australian Planning Commission have deferred it, as the applicant mentioned in their deputation, pending the outcome of this application. It's kind of waiting for that to be resolved, for us to resolve that issue of that single regulated tree before the Commission will provide their advice.
Okay, no, thank you. I now understand the importance and how pivotal this is. Thank you.
Follow-on question, if you don't mind, and it might be a superfluous question, but I'm assuming from the amount of land provided for the street front lot, that if that subdivision came up closer behind the existing house, that there might be potential to do a battle axe subdivision where a building could exist?
We've certainly looked at that. Looked at even still within accommodating minimums within the residential design codes, which is basically the standards that we have to apply. because of the tree protection zones and the tree root zones, you could, there's a little bit of wiggle room, I guess, for want of a better term, for that protection area, and you could reduce that size of that front lot to get it to kind of almost squeeze a house in. But it would be an atypical approach to, as the applicant has spoken at length about, their design doesn't accommodate for that approach.
Okay, I agree that you can only make a decision based on the application and what comes before you, that we can't mould a design into what might work. But would you, okay, most traditional builds in WA are the slab and construct type build. Would you perceive that if it was a battle axe block, that there are potential other build techniques that might accommodate preservation of the tree, or you think that's a far-fetched idea?
Look, I've not come across in my 12 years of planning a design which would accommodate something like that.
Okay, last question is, the tree has lost 25% of its body. So is the tree going to recover? The arborist, I think, indicates that is fine, but I just want to check that that's your understanding.
Yeah, that's correct. As per the arborist report, the health of the tree is considered average, and that is to say there's no visible signs of, I forget the wording, but cracking, bowing, issues with the tree. That's
Okay,
right.
Thank you very much. Councillors, are there any further questions on this item? In which case we'll go to the next item, which is 12.5, investigation of LifeVac devices.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, councillors and members of the gallery. The purpose of this report is to consider the installing of LifeVac airway clearance devices at the town of Bassendean community facilities. I'd firstly like to acknowledge, however, that this report does respond to a very tragic situation that occurred in January 2024 that I would not wish anyone to experience. So I offer my heartfelt sympathy to the family who have brought this proposal to the council's attention. As requested by council when this was first presented as a notice of motion by the mayor, we've undertaken detailed research into the LifeVac device, with the resulting recommendation being that due to a lack of approvals from the state government, leading first aid providers such as St John Ambulance, the Australian Resuscitation Council and also Perth Children's Hospital, we reluctantly recommend not supporting the implementation of these devices at this time. And that latter comment is a key point. We do, however, commit to continuing monitoring the situation, and should the above approvals occur, we recommend that the town reconsiders this current position. In the meantime, we're offering a middle ground where we encourage community groups and sporting clubs to consider purchasing these on their own behalf, and we are willing to fund this using the town's community funding budget in our operating accounts. I open it up for any comments or questions.
Thank you. If we're opening it up to community groups to apply for funding, the grant funding rounds that we have,
Yeah.
and they're going to provide this device, would the town have a preferred position? Because I note here we've got the options of do not install ACDs at town managed facilities. We've got install ACDs at town managed facilities without a secure cabinet, and then we've got them with a secure cabinet. Would the town be recommending any one of those over, like the secure cabinet as opposed to no cabinet?
It would be up to the community group or the sporting club, that decision.
Okay. None of the the various state government entities Have none of them actually provided any approval for any of these sorts of devices? Because LifeVax is only one of a range.
As far as I'm aware, there's no support for any airway control devices at this point. Everyone recommends the traditional, if you like, approach, which is the Heimlich manoeuvre.
Okay,
So-
but they don't actually teach that in first aid and have not done so for the last decade.
Sorry. Yeah, back blow. Sorry.
Yeah.
They're only teaching the back blow in training, but registered training organisations are only teaching the traditional approach, which is the back blow.
Okay. Councillors, further questions on this one? Councillor Polifka?
Yeah, just in terms of risk, which obviously is quite important. So there we say that this product is not recognised by St John's Ambulance nor the state government. Do we know if either of those organisations are assessing it and whether they're going to make a determination?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I only just thought of that question myself, so I may follow up, but my understanding is at this point of time, no.
And so we're potentially concerned that absent, I suppose, that stamp of approval from one of those organisations, we're concerned about, I suppose, Good Samaritan type liability, somebody assists or renders assistance and doesn't quite get it right?
Yeah. Look, we'd be taking on the liability if something went wrong, in very simple terms.
Okay, well, probably my question is that, because I suppose depending on the answer of St John's and the state government, we can, if they give it the okay, I guess we can fall into line. Thank you.
So you will follow up?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, I think we'll try and establish a time frame for these devices going forward.
Councillor Carter?
Yes, thank you. My question is that if the town provided funding to purchase these devices and something did go wrong, how liable do you think the town would be because we provided funding for it, even though we don't do it ourselves?
Yeah. Through you, Madam Mayor, if they are purchasing it, the responsibility, in my understanding, would lie with them. We're just facilitating a process, but we're not taking responsibility for that process. But I'm happy to get a second opinion.
Councillors, further questions? Okay, we'll move on to the next item.
Did you want to do the gallery now, or just leave boring stuff to policy stuff?
Sorry.
Did you want to do the...
Councillors, the CEO has indicated that we could go to the confidential items straight away because the other items are relatively innocuous and they should be done very quickly after the confidential item. So, yes, we'll close the doors.
So we're going to move it.
12.7 was the pre-booked verge collection service, which you may or may not have questions on, and 12.8 was the supply and preparation installation of turf. Okay, so we will come out from behind closed doors.
We're out.
Yep. Now, we had stopped at 12.6, which was the policy reviews. I don't know if there's any quick...
Madam Mayor, I might quickly deal with that so we can get into the officer's report for
Yep.
the 12.7 verge collection services. The policy review, would suggest if council have a chance to read it between now and next Tuesday and can submit questions to myself, it's really a tidy up of 3 and a revocation of 1. I would draw your attention probably to the advocacy policy. That's had most changes. The intent hasn't changed. The main changes refer to the fact that we are going, because we don't have an election now till state and federal in 28 and 29, rather than having a project-based advocacy policy, we needed to strengthen the the advocacy policy around position statements to alter such things as legislation. And I'm going to be holding a workshop in September with council about understanding what those position statements will be. Legislation, we're going to bring forward a comprehensive one around traffic and road congestion for the town, which will be used to advocate around level crossings at Collier Road and Lord Street, and also at some of our intersections on Guildford Road, based on accident and incidences through traffic modelling. So that's just one example of a position statement, but the workshop will also canvass council about what position statements they have that they would like to advocate to politicians, be it some that we've already done, but we need formal position statements.
Would, in that traffic one that you've just spoken about, would you include the underpass or an overpass to join up the two parts of the town? Because it seems to me that would go hand in hand with what you've just talked about in respect to...
That may be the case, but that one there could be a position statement around building a platform from the Bassendean railway station to Old Perth Road. So that, as an example, could be a new advocacy position which would support a developer who has an interest in that bottom site that would also seek that kind of outcome to join that car parking opportunity to the north with us on this side.
Because that's been a long-term one in our traffic assessment. I've forgotten the name of the company. Was it Arup? No, it wasn't Arup, was it?
Cardinal?
No, I can't remember. No, it was Cardio's the drainage. No, this was, I'm sure it was Arup. Anyway, it's a long-term one. Moving on. Councillors, any questions on that? Right, now we go to 12.7, which is the pre-booked verge collection service. And I am dying to hear your summary of this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the purpose of this report is to present to Council a summary of the tenders that were received for a new request for tender for the verge collection services and recommend appointment of the contractor considered to be the best value of money for the town. So this will implement Council's decision to replace the skip bin service with a pre-booked loose verge collection as per a resolution of Council from July of 2024. So the pre-booked loose verge collection service was the community's preferred option in a survey that was conducted in 2024, and the intent is for the new service to commence in January of 2026. So subject to the new tender being awarded, there will then be a subsequent contract variation required to remove the skip bin service from the existing waste contract and other items associated with residential collections. Because that contract variation exceeds the 5% threshold, approval by Council is required. So information has been provided to the community about the proposed changes through the current waste and recycling guide on the website and also in Thrive newsletter. So there's a fair amount of detail provided in the report and also the attachment, so I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Councillor John.
With the skip bins, I understand that your allocation of skip bins is financial year. So is this going to create an opportunity for people to get a skip bin this year and an extra veg collection?
So we've been promoting that there's one skip bin available between July and December of this year. The online booking system hasn't limited it, but if bookings are received, the contractor is advising people. If there is any situations where people do book more their full allocation, we'll have a record of that for the next 6 months of next year.
Councillors, further questions? No, okay. We go to 12.8, which is the supply, preparation and installation of turf. See you, Nicole.
Thanks, Nicole.
She was going to exit so fast we hardly got to say goodbye.
Yeah, evening all. So my I guess brief is similar to Nicole's. This one's the 3-year tender for the supply and install of turf to the town's sporting fields and other POS areas as required. The scope of the work is actually included in the report. As you can see, it's the basic installation of turf with preparation. The full evaluation document is actually attached with the financials and the reason for the recommendation. But more than happy to answer any questions.
Councillors, questions? Okay, thank you very... Oh, Councillor Plivka.
Just in terms of the turf, so we're talking about the installation of the Kikuyu or the Cooch. Are they used in combination or are those for separate areas?
Normally used separately. So of late, the town's been using the Kikuyu more often, particularly in the jumbo rolls at Bassendean Oval and Jubilee near the Caledonia Pavilion. The jumbo turf rolls have been used there predominantly.
And the ryegrass seed, is that just used to supplement the lawn during winter or is that for something else?
Exactly correct. Again, that's been used about 4 or 5 weeks ago at Bassendean Oval, along the middle where a lot of the activity is. The ryegrass was installed there and was very effective.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, further questions? Okay, we'll go on to 12.9, which is the Enterprise Resource Planning System replacement.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Evening, councillors. So this report seeks to continue the town's journey, really, in relation to the program that we've been on for a while now, to ultimately replace Synergy Soft with a new upgraded enterprise resource planning system for the town across the whole of the town's services. So what we're really looking to do here is take it out to market in the form of an expression of interest to allow the market the opportunity to come back to us and show us what they can provide. There's a few advantages to this process in terms of really supplementing the town's knowledge in relation to, we've got a pretty good idea about what's in the market, but more particularly how it can apply to the town. Proposed costs, timeframes, implementation schedules, those sorts of things, which will really allow us, I think, to come back to council with a pretty comprehensive business case, which we're expecting early in the new year, to take council through that whole project, informed by this expression of interest process. The second component, or the second thing we're looking to get out of the process is a short list of likely partners, long-term partners in this journey. So out of the expression of interest process, we would be reporting back to council and asking council to select a short list from among the vendors that express an interest, and then we'll have a targeted tender process with those shortlisted providers. Both of those things, the EOI will come back to council with the business case early in 2026, and then around the middle of the year we should be able to come back with a recommendation to award a contract following the tender process. So that's the rough process from here to get to contract award.
But this step in the process is just really to go out to market, seek expressions of interest from vendors, and be better informed about next steps from that point.
Councillors, questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Paul. So the long-term financial plan will, the details of that will be populated in the agenda next week. The accounts paid as per usual. I would request that if you have any queries to send them through to Mr. White, who will provide written responses. We have the monthly financial report, which as usual will be appearing in next week's agenda. The notice of motion is as indicated, and the officer will provide a report on that next week. And that brings us to the close of the meeting. Sorry.
Were we going to discuss the policy, the new policies? According to agenda.
Did we? Sorry? New policy for the, which item are we at? Sorry?
Way back, because we went to behind closed doors, so we skipped over it.
I thought we spoke to that and sorted that. I did ask if there were any questions.
Oh, no, not really. It's just that.
Okay, but out of interest? No.
So the new policies I spoke to was, it's a review of the advocacy policy, the caretaker policy and the live streaming policy. So they've had an update. And as I said a bit earlier, that the advocacy document is probably the one you want to focus on. That's had what I consider to be improvements based on our learnings from our first advocacy policy. And I am hosting a workshop in September to workshop council's new advocacy and position statements for that policy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so councillors, staff, I'm going to declare this meeting closed at 7:55 p.m. And thank you one and all for all your efforts and your attention to detail. Thank you very much.